Here are the most valuable items that sank with the Titanic, excluding the horrendous loss of human life, obviously. A jewel-encrusted edition of Omar Khayyam's Rubaiyat. This book of Persian poems, it took over 2 years for it to be made. It was encrusted with over 1,000 precious jewels, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, topaz, all each inlaid with gold. And in 1912, a guy called Gabriel Weiss bought it at auction and packed it on board the Titanic to send it to America to a new owner. What makes this one extra sad is the people who made the book painstakingly made a second copy, the one that you can see here. They put it in a vault and it got bombed by the Germans in the Blitz. This painting by Mary Joseph Blondel, which is called Le Circassien au Bon, and it was from 1814. This was actually quite a famous painting. It had been exhibited in the Louvre and everything. It was bought by a Swedish businessman, went down with the ship, and he filed a claim against the White Star Line for $100,000, which is the biggest claim that anybody made against them. He didn't get that much, though. If that painting was around today, millions. It'd be absolutely millions. Charlotte Gardiz's huge pink diamond. This is a lady who absolutely loved her bling, and her claim against the White Star Line was substantial. She had like 15 trunks stuffed full of furs and fashions and silks and jewels, and this diamond was the most expensive of all of them. A Renault Type CB Coupe de Ville. And if that looks familiar, it should do. That is the car that Rose and Jack got naughty in the film Titanic. The real car was owned by a first-class passenger called William Carter, who survived the sinking and filed a claim for about $5,000 for his car. I don't know how much this would be worth today, but in 2002, another version of this was sold, and it was sold for something like $269,000. Joseph Conrad sent a handwritten edition of one of his short stories to a collector in America on board the Titanic. It did not survive. Emilio Portaluppi had with him a signed photograph of the Italian war hero Giuseppe Garibaldi. The photo was lost, but Emilio actually survived. He was one of the very few people that was rescued when the lifeboats turned back to go and get people from the water. And he put in a claim against the White Star Line for $3,000. Book collector Henry Widener had been on a book hunting expedition in England, and he'd managed to find a super rare 1598 edition of Francis Bacon's works, which he took with him on board the Titanic. He managed to get his mother and her maid on board a lifeboat, but he wasn't so lucky. Apparently he had his copy of Bacon in his tuxedo pocket when the ship sank. And finally, 5 Steinway grand pianos, which are like the Rolls Royces of the piano world, including one that had been especially made for first class on board the Titanic. These things were so well made that you can still see them standing today in footage of the wreck of the Titanic. And when very rarely Steinways from this time period come up for auction, they're selling for like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. It is an expensive piano, and they lost 5 of them. The total claims against the White Star Line for loss of life, loss of property, injury from the survivors' families and cargo owners came to something like $16.4 million. But not everybody got the amount that they should have done, especially if they were poor.